To the dudes from Ridgeline, if any of y'all watch this, next time y'all drop a rifle, can we do it in like January, February, so I don't have to do all my accuracy testing in 90-degree weather in July? Thanks. Welcome back to my channel, guys. If you haven't been here before, my name is Mike, and this is Northeast Precision. Depending on where you look, this rifle is either incredibly hyped or deeply, deeply hated. But over the next 1,000 rounds or so, we're going to do a dive into the RD-15 LPR from Ridgeline Defense. So my goal for this video is to give you guys a basic rundown of what's in this rifle, what sets this rifle apart, some of the market competition and other comparable rifles that are out there, and whether or not it's worth $3,200. Now, for the basic breakdown, this rifle is going to come with an A2 flash hider, a Magpul CTR, and a V5 or Magpul grip, as mine came with. These aren't anything crazy. Everybody likes something different. They're basically, from Ridgeline, placeholders for whatever you want to put on them. Now, do I think the CTR is actually a pretty nice bang for buck option? Yeah. There's a lot of cheek risers and bag riders. Some companies like Sun and Shadow and Magpul themselves actually make cheek risers and bag riders for them. So it really does open up a lot of options. Alright, I say that. Mine came with an A2 flash hider, mine came with a Magpul CTR stock, and a Magpul K2 grip. And I ain't wearing any of that anymore. So they are some nice things that they throw on there that you're bound to change anyway. A lot of people like the Magpul grips. I personally don't. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to go with something a little bit more precision oriented, because we're going to mainly do most of this testing all at 100 yards to really dive into the precision of this gun. Past 100 yards, typically you're getting more into ammo and shooter ability than necessarily what the rifle is. If the gun groups half MOA at 100 yards, it should also be able to do that with the capable shooter at 200, 300, 500, 600 yards. Alright, so out of the gate, we're going to jump into what I've already put on the gun and what I intend to do to the gun. Right now it's wearing a Tango 4 6-24. It's a higher magnification scope I had laying around. A lot of this video is going to be for the accuracy potential of this gun and how it likes different loads. So a 6-24 is going to be great for that. This is eventually going to get a lower power scope. When I say lower power, not necessarily an LPVO. It may end up riding or having a 1-10 riding on it eventually, but probably something more like a 3-15, 4-16, or maybe like the 2-20 from Night Force. But this is a knockoff Magpul PRS stock from LMT. I really like B5 grips. They're supposed to come with B5's grips. Mine came with a Magpul, so that ended up getting swapped for inevitably a B5 anyway. I have an Atlas bipod on a Picatinny rail at the moment, and then we have the Flow 6K from Huxworks. Foundation of this rifle is the billet matched receiver set and semi-monolithic handguard. Now, the biggest pro to this is, and it's actually even on the inspection sheet, is there is zero slop between this upper and lower. If you guys have run Sons of Liberty, or like Cerakoted receiver sets before and clamped them together, it's pretty similar. This thing, there's no wiggle whatsoever. So if that's one of your little OCD things, big pro to this gun. Mine, I can take the rear pin out, exactly. This thing, it doesn't even move. You could basically probably shoot it like that. But it's nice, and when you pay this much for a rifle, it's I think expected. Some of the nice stuff that's built into this receiver set. So you have a nice big mag release on the right side. On the left side of the rifle, you have a nice ambi mag release over here. It's got a pretty good fence to it, although it does hang over a tiny bit, so it is possible to bump it. One thing I have noticed running an AMB mag release at Ridgeline, I had probably 4 or 5 mags drop unexpectedly due to the Ford Controls one. I'm not necessarily going to blame it on them. I was running the increased tension spring, which is supposed to alleviate that, but with the frustration I had with that, I just ditched it, went back to a standard mag release because it wasn't really something I was using there as in the recce course. But the bolt catch bolt release is a pretty nice paddle. It does have a lower kind of tab to it, which helps lock the bolt back. Being that it is a billet, I would really like to see an ambi mag release, or not ambi mag release, ambi bolt catch, but it's unfortunately something that's not here. Ridgeline said it was part of the R&D to it, and they stopped due to, I guess, the pricing and to make it a little bit more budget friendly for the gun. But it is something I would like to see for something in this price tag. A lot of the competition out there, like ADM, Radian, you know, the new Knight stuff, they're all ambi now, and fully ambi, which is kind of nice. So one of the big features that this rifle has is going to be the semi-monolithic handguard with a full-length integrated ARCA rail. The nice thing with that is, being that it's integrated into the gun, it's not extra space that it sticks out further down below the rail, so it doesn't get that chunky kind of grip if you're trying to run it with a C-clamp. If you have an MCX, that's a perfect example of a giant rail, especially if you run a pressure switch or something on top of that rail. It kind of gets old, it's kind of hard to grip. This is nice enough that you can get a decent C-clamp on it, but at the same time, it does have that ARCA rail. Word soup inbound. No matter what I do, every time I've tried to do this, it comes out bad. So, semi-monolithic handguard. The handguard is actually bolting to the upper receiver instead of the barrel nut. Reason that's nice is when you load with something like a tripod, bipod, bag rider, barricade, whatever, you're going to induce less flex onto the barrel and the barrel nut, which means less point of impact shift. Great. Now, for functionality, you do have M-LOK, you do have a full-length ARCA rail on the bottom. The handguard ends up being about like a 14.5-inch handguard. It's a different system, so it's not directly measured like another handguard. You have about an inch and a half of the barrel sticking up, so call it a 14.5-ish handguard. Full-length ARCA means you can slide bipods and tripods or whatever all the way back and forth, which is nice because if you set up on obstacles or whatever, you can kind of play around with your system. You do still have M-LOK down the 9 o'clock and on the sides of the rail, which allows you to mount lights and whatnot. You can still then also mount a pick rail to the M-LOK on the bottom if that's what you want to do. That's how my bipod's mounted on mine currently. Eventually I'll be going to ARCA, just haven't shifted over yet. The nice part with that is you're not immediately bought into ARCA, but it is there when you decide to make that switch. As we all know, heart of the rifle is the barrel. You can have all of these magical features and make it super nice to shoot, but if it has a trash barrel in it, it's just not going to group that well. Or, you know, maybe one will be great, then the next one will be hit or miss. Kind of one of the things that you run into using cheaper barrels, somewhat like Roscoe, Ballistic Advantage, that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong, I've seen a lot of people get great results, but they don't have the consistency of higher name barrels, like Proof. So this rifle has a press fit 416R stainless barrel from Proof Research. These are a custom profile. So it's basically an SPR profile, but then also has a jam nut style to lock the gas block on there. This thing is absolutely a tack driver. I'm going to get into some of the initial accuracy testing that we've seen with this rifle and kind of get you some of the groups. But it's absolutely a tack driver. It is an intermediate gas, which means it's pushed it out a little bit further past a mid-length. It's basically splitting the difference between a mid-length and a rifle-length gas. With that super soft recoil impulse, it is a little bit of a heavier rifle, so that doesn't hurt anything anyway. But the intermediate gas, the weight of the rifle built in, and additionally the A5 buffer system, it's just super soft shooting, which is awesome. like I said, the accuracy of this rifle has been phenomenal so far. It did ship with a test group in the box that was just over half MOA. I believe it was like 517 or 571, something like that. But I've seen pretty comparable accuracy to that in a couple different loads as well. So it's not just some magic that they throw in the box. Part of the cool thing is these rifles don't ship unless they are proved sub-MOA. Sub-MOA kind of has been a gimmick over the years because a lot of companies will just do, we guarantee our barrels for a 3-shot group. The test group with these is a 5-shot group with federal gold medal match. They are using great ammo, but they're also doing a 5-shot group and throwing it in the box and proving it when it ships to you. There's plenty of other rifles out there that companies will guarantee their rifle to that, but you get the rifle and we'll say maybe it's just over 1 MOA groupings. You have to play the game of finding the right load. With these, if you shoot the ammo they use, you're going to get good accuracy out of it. And they've proven that, which is nice because these rifles don't ship unless they have that accuracy. Alright, so we got through most of the big stuff. For some of the supporting parts of the rifle, you could say these come with a Magpul dust cover. It's going to be a Ridgeline Ridgeline branded charging handle, which is nice. I believe this would be technically the super charging handle from Ridgeline, but it does have Ridgeline's branding on it. They're going to come with a Magpul CTR, an A2 flash hider. Mine came with a Magpul grip. You may get a Magpul grip or a B5 grip. It has a A5 buffer system, which I touched on a little bit. Basically what that does is extends the buffer system a little bit to make it, again, shoot a little bit smoother. Another thing is that's going to help with longevity of the internals of the rifle, and give you, again, a little bit nicer of a recoil impulse. Rifle also comes with a Badger safety. As you can tell, mine I already swapped to the 60. They do come in the 90-degree setting, but all you have to do is take the grip off. Unfortunately, you do have to pop both the roll pins out of the safety, but then you can flip the barrel over and run it as a 60-degree instead of a 90-degree safety. I prefer the short throw, so I immediately swapped mine to the 60, but there's plenty of people that still like 90, so go for it. Trigger, these come with a Ridgeline SSAE, which is really the gold standard when it comes to triggers. They've proven reliability. This was the trigger that was in the Mark 12. Combat reliability, a phenomenal break. It's about 3.5 pounds. It is a 2-stage. If you want a single stage or something, or a flat bow trigger, you're obviously welcome to swap your trigger. But it's nice to see that this does come with that, rather than just like a basic ALG or something along those lines. So to try and break this up a little bit, to try and make this video not 2 hours long, I'm going to try and break it up into kind of 3 different parts. The base review and initial review, kind of like what we're doing right now. I'm going to do a comparison against some of the other popular stuff out there. At $3,200, obviously this rifle is going to compare to some pretty premium stuff, but one of the biggest things in the industry we see out there is, well, I could build X rifle for way cheaper. I could buy this up, or I could do that. And what I'm going to do is kind of compare it to this guy. So hand-built rifle, but Sons of Liberty receiver set, Roscoe barrel, the works. It's a nice rifle, but built by myself, and significantly cheaper than what this guy costs. Now, based off of some of the parts that are in it, it is still going to be up there in price, but at the same time, I'm not using any crazy barrels. It's got a Roscoe barrel in it. It's not a proof. It's got a LaRue MBT in it, so it's a little bit cheaper of a trigger, and a lot of other nice things in it. But you guys are going to see that that gun can put up some pretty comparable groups to this, even with the difference in price tag. And it is something to consider when you're getting into something like this rifle. There are plenty of other options out there, and we're going to talk about some of those. Then we're also going to get into a little bit more of, like, you know, the average accuracy we see out of this rifle after I get to that 1,000 round mark, to try and prevent this from also being a 6-month process. We're also going to chop that into a third part, but we are going to get into some of the accuracy now. So one thing you might notice with some of these reviews, a lot of people will get one of these and they'll do a whole bunch of accuracy groups, and they'll say, well, you know, but that was a flyer, and kind of discount groups. I'm not going to pull any of my groups that I shoot with this gun. I'm going to give you a true average. If I shoot it for a 5-round group and I have a flyer, or, you know, the gun has a flyer or the ammo has a flyer, I'm still leaving that in there, and that will be in the averages for all the ammos. For the most part, I've been pretty confident with all the groups we've shot out of this so far. One of the only ones, ironically, I've had a little bit of that I will actually call that, like, I had a flyer, is the Hornady 73 grain ELD. So this group right here is about 1.7 inches. That's pretty much one of the only ones that I would say that I confidently have a flyer with. Second group with it was just under 6/10 of an inch. But I'm gonna give you guys everything. So the it does seem to be, like, you know, just like any other rifle when it comes to shooting, you know, Winchester M855, the 62 grain green tip stuff, M193, your regular 55 grain 5.56. It does seem to perform pretty similarly to a lot of my other guns when it comes to that. So I would say if you're looking for this thing to shoot, you know, just regular bulk ammunition and get super crazy accuracy, I don't think you're going to see that. I think these barrels definitely are a little bit pickier towards that heavy grain stuff. Now, part of that is none of that ammo is match grade ammo. There are plenty of companies that do make match grade lighter ammo, but when you're getting that bulk stuff, it doesn't have the quality control. It doesn't have the consistency of higher end stuff, you know, like the Hornady, the SIG 77 grain, the Federal Gold Medal match. Alright, one last disclaimer for the ammo testing. It has been hot as balls here lately. I haven't been giving the rifle time to cool down or anything, so you can very well see better groups if you're letting it cool a little bit better, and you do end up getting one of these ones, you could see a little bit better. I'm in no way a competitive shooter or a professional shooter or any of that, but there are some interesting stuff. So one of the big ones, the PMC 77, we're right about 1 MOA groups with that. That's with the RD-15. This little kicker, this was with the Roscoe. So I have seen a couple instances where it has done a little bit better. You know, one gun might just like one bullet better than the other. But under sub MOA and like 6/10 of an inch with the Roscoe. So again, that's a $200 barrel, not a $900 barrel. What else we got? So the big one, my normal go-to is going to be the SIG 77 grain. We're right now averaging right around 6/10 of an inch, a little bit under with the SIG stuff. I've started using the ADI, so the Australian stuff. They're 69 grain. It's performing pretty well. The other thing is, it is a huge price difference between that and like the SIG stuff, the Hornady stuff. It seems to be right about 1 MOA. I've only had a chance to shoot one group with it so far, but as long as it holds reasonably around that 1 MOA mark, I'm probably going to switch over to that stuff for the bulk of this test. If I can hold about 1 MOA with a 5-shot group, I'm perfectly fine with that. I love shooting tiny little groups. For example, this one was like 0.36 inches. But the 677 grain is solidly holding an average around 5 to 6/10 of an inch. The Black Hills 69 grain is really just not performing great out of this gun. To be fair, it also doesn't perform that great out of my Roscoe, so I'm kind of banking on that being the ammo. Who knows, could just be a bad lot or whatever. I know Black Hills makes some phenomenal stuff, but the 69 grain 223 just doesn't seem like it wants to perform out of any of my guns. Shooting some hand loads around 1.3 inches. That is a load workup, so I can definitely get better out of that. X-Tac 55 grain is the PMC's M193 version that I normally run, we're typically sitting around inch and a half, about. I did have one, kind of fluke group that was 0.7 inches for a 5-shot group, which is phenomenal out of bulk ammo, but who knows what happened there. And M8.5, 2.3 inches, 2.2 inches, so it's pretty consistent there, a little bit over 2 MOA. The Horny 73 grain, 1.7 and 0.59. Just because I did have, one group that I'm going to blame myself on for the Horny 73 grain. I will say that I'm going to shoot a whole bunch more groups with that. Again, I'm going to give you guys the average, so to give you a little bit more of a long-standing average, rather than just like, oh, I shot one group with this, and maybe that one group was just phenomenal, or maybe this one group was bad. That's why I am going to shoot multiple groups with most of this ammo. I'm not going to, kill a dead horse by shooting the same bulk ammo over and over and over again. If you're spending the money on something like this, I would imagine you're also probably going to spend a little bit more on ammo. I am trying to find that little bit of balance of like, hey, I can shoot a ton of this ammo and get way more training out of it, but still get pretty good accuracy, like that ADI 69 grain versus the SIG 77 stuff. It's a little bit more expensive, but it is phenomenal. One thing I do have to say about the SIG ammo, and Recce Randy's video is also pretty good on this. He had said how slow this stuff moves. Out of my 13.9, the 677 grain clocked 2267, so sub 2300 feet per second. That same barrel clocks 2900 with M193, so huge speed difference. Now it's incredibly accurate, and if you're shooting 100, 200, 300, 400, maybe 500 yards, sure. I took my 13.9 to almost 600 yards with that ammo and did fine. But out past that, around the 800 mark, I struggled, literally could not pick up a hit, and it may have just been moving so slow that I was having issues with it. But if the ADI shoots a slightly bigger group but clocks 200, 300, 400 feet per second faster, I'm going to use that because it's going to be easier to use. But like I said, every gun kind of has a load it's going to prefer, and part of the fun part about doing this is finding what each one likes. Can kind of be a tedious process, especially when you have a bunch of other stuff to shoot and try and group. Trying to remember what likes what is fun, but that's part of the fun part of this sport. All right, so for my initial review, kind of my initial thoughts, where does this gun sit? What is this gun for? This gun is designed for a competition kind of scenario. It's pretty heavy, so as a fighting rifle, will it do the job? Absolutely, but it's a little bit heavy. You throw a light, a bipod, a laser, an optic, that stuff all adds up pretty quick, and especially when you're talking about a pound or pound and a half, 2 pounds heavier than a normal regular AR-15, you're making some sacrifices there. If you're looking for a GPR or that rifle you're going to throw on your back and take here and there and do a ton of shooting with, rifle might not be the one to use. Now, if you're looking at stuff like quantified performance and that kind of match setting, it's a phenomenal rifle and it's going to do very well for you. Ammo dependent. If you're spending $3,000 on this rifle and you expect to get tiny little groups out of it with junk Tula or even the PMC, you're going to have a wake-up call when it shoots just like a lot of other guns. But for competition rifle, I think this thing is going to be phenomenal. It comes with some great stuff out of the gate. Shoots very soft. It's proven to be pretty accurate. It looks great. And we all know that's half the battle. All right, guys. Thank you, and stay tuned. I'm going to post up a couple parts to this. I've done a good bit of testing with this guy and the Roscoe build already, but the next thing I need to get out and do is some of the velocity testing. I do want to give you guys numbers to show you, hey, this barrel clocks this versus that, and also some of the SDs with the same ammo to see how one barrel does. One barrel, even though might shoot the same size group, one might have a tighter SD, which at longer range is going to be a huge difference. Like I said, 2 more parts at least to this video coming up. If you guys are interested and you like this, feel free to comment, like, subscribe. In the comments, if you guys want to post up kind of some stuff you want to see, like, hey, how's this ammo do, that, whatever, please feel free to throw that down there. I try to get back to almost everybody and all the comments that I can and that I see. Get out there, keep shooting, and have some fun with it. See you guys. Thanks. Couple tiny little things for the price. Hey, there's gripe number 1, is price. But again, I do think the rifle's worth it, but it is expensive. In that price bracket, I would like to see it ambi. It's just that next step up. That being said, the controls they put in it are great. No complaints there. And one little in the brass deflector, I don't know how well you guys can see that, but the brass deflector doesn't work too great, so it just dings up the side of the gun. Whatever, I'm not worried about it. Mine's already scratched up. That's like 400 rounds ish there. You can see how much mine's already chewed up, but does fine other than that. Might be able to help if you change the buffer setup. These are running a A5H2, is a very lightly gassed gun. You could probably bump it down to an A5H1 and maybe bring that out a little bit and might not see so much of it. But it is just one of those little things.